I want to talk about the fact that this is Easter, Passover, and Ramadan, of course, all colliding this weekend. And we're looking at how many Americans really practice a religion. A recent Gallup poll shows church membership among American adults is down just over 25% since the 1930s. And then right now, less than half of Americans say they even belong to a church. So the question for the panel, and we will discuss this again after the break. I want to start now, though. Is religion in America dying? Candace, our theologian, what say you?
A short answer, yes. Our religious institutions are failing people. I mean, that is the short and the quick of it, and people are tired. And I think we need to be less worried about whether or not America is becoming less religious and more worried about what does it mean for us to be more just and more equitable and more loving and more patient. And that is not ascribed to a particular faith, tradition, or religious expression. But our institutions are failing people left and right.
Well, so what do you mean? Explain.
Well, one, you have issues around sexuality and gender that churches refuse, and religious institutions writ large refuse to take up in serious ways, to the point that you have a lot of denominations that are splitting as a result of it, right? Mm-hmm. Then on top of that, we are still at a nexus of racial injustice and inequalities. And instead of really taking to heart what it means for our churches to talk about justice and equity, we put up Black Instagram squares and think that that's enough, right? That we have to do, our churches have to do more, our religious institutions have to do more to speak to systemic inequities, and they're just not.
Well, so Jason, what do you think? I mean, that's kind of an offshoot of the original question. Do you think religion is dying, and do you think that religion is in fact failing people?
I don't necessarily think religion is failing people. I think people might be failing their religious traditions and religious institutions. This idea that the religion has to adopt certain positions, whether it's on social justice or gender identity or whatever it happens to be, I think is a slightly wrong way to look at it. I think religion as a whole and belief in God or spirituality is supposed to help guide people in their individual choices. And if we're coming to a church or a temple or a mosque with the expectation that the leadership is going to hold our positions outside of what religious traditions are supposed to be passed down, then I think, of course, we're setting ourselves up to fail. If I go to temple, I'm not there for them to be an echo chamber of political beliefs. I'm there to get some sort of spiritual guidance. And I think very clearly, yes, religion in this country, at least organized religion, is in trouble. And I think we've seen some of the negative consequences of that. I mean, being in sort of a religion in a general sense is good for health. We've had so many studies that have basically pointed that out, that you're less depressed, you feel more connected to a community. And I do think that that's an aspect that you can't just make up once you leave a church or once you leave a temple.
All right, Ashley, before we go to break, and we're going to continue this conversation, but I want to get to you. Do you think that religion is dying here in America?
You bet. And I'm going to tell you what. My mom is 84, and I looked at your graphic, and I'm going to ask your control room if they can put that graphic back up that showed the steep decline. And for her whole life almost, I think there was only 3% decline in the memberships in church. And then you hit right around that 2000, the year 2000, and it just starts to crater. And I went back and I was wondering, when did that Boston report come out that was the subject for the movie Spotlight, right? That looked and did a deep dive on the Catholic Church, and it was the year 2000. So we started as a nation to really believe the victims in the Catholic Church abuse scandal starting in the year 2000. And lo and behold, we lost 20% of church memberships over the last 22 years. Did anything else major like that happen? Well, we had 9/11. And I remember right after 9/11 being in New York, I asked a lot of people, what's your faith like now? Do you still believe in God after that happened? And it really did have a lot of people questioning their faith, because honestly, every time we have tragic disasters like that, we start to wonder, if there is a God, how could this happen? I don't think that's at fault, but I do think the Catholic abuse scandal has a huge impact on why people just don't believe anymore.
Well, if you are just joining us, we are talking religion and Americans with Easter, Passover, Ramadan, all this week. We're looking at how many Americans really practice a religion. A recent Gallup poll shows church membership among American adults down just over 25%. Now, that's from all the way back in the 1930s, but right now, in 2022, less than half of Americans say they even belong to a church. So our question is religion dying in America? We're starting with our resident theologian, Candace Benbow. She is author of Red Lip Theology. Candace, we always hear this: I'm spiritual, but I'm not really religious.
Yeah, I mean, for many people, saying that is a way to articulate religious affiliation or spiritual identity while distancing themselves from the harms that have been perpetrated on them by the church and religious institutions. So when you're hearing people say, I'm spiritual but not religious, they're telling you, I have a moral grounding. I am steeped in a faith, and yet I want to distance myself, rightfully so, from harmful aspects of these traditions that have done work, one, to distance us from true ideals in our faith systems, as well as to have us thinking really morose and difficult things about ourselves. And so we need to give more space and more grace to people who are saying that to us, rather than immediately dismiss them, which is typically what always happens.
And Ashley, you think a lot of it has to do with the Catholic Church and some scandal within the Catholic Church back in the early 2000s, right around 2000.
I do. I personally lost my faith when I saw all the tanks on the Sermon on the Mount. That wasn't pleasant. And I think a lot of people have looked at if you look at the dawn of ages, that war is based primarily on religion. Yes, geography at times, but oftentimes religion and sect. And I think that's a hard thing to sort of, accommodate for if you've had the opportunity, like I have, to actually be in the Holy Land and see the hypocrisies there. But I think you hit the nail on the head, Nichole, when you said that more people maybe are saying they're spiritual than religious, because it's now medically proven. If you meditate, you add gray matter. That's not me talking. Those are the doctors at UCLA et al. You actually do see physiological change and benefit from meditation. And many people say meditation is like the focus of prayer and religion, that they're very similar in terms of how they affect your body. So as we become far more healthy and as we live longer, which is all in the last 40 years or so, I think a lot of people have just seen that physiologically it makes more sense to believe in something. And if it ain't God, it's going to be, I'm going to believe in me and Om.
All right, Jason, I want to make sure that you have a chance to say something. Not much time left, but is it about religion or is it about spirituality?
I think it's probably about religion, in the sense that, over the course of the last couple decades, we've made this effort to take it completely out of the public sphere, right? Any mention or even thought of God in a school or from a government agency, whether or not it's perceived or reality, it gets pushback from certain folks who don't want it at all to be discussed. And I think when we've turned it into something like that we have to be scared of, that we have to move away from, I do think over time it tends to change the culture.
Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.